Welcome back and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective. I am Kenneth Shark Kinney, your host and Chief Shark Officer. Let me tell you about two amazing sponsors who make this show possible. I'm a rather particular shark and only work with the best. First of all, let's talk a little bit about Inbound. I've worked with a great team at Invoca for several years now. From marketing to sales and commerce to CX, Invoca's active conversational intelligence platform enables revenue teams to create better buying experiences, drive more leads, and increase revenue. Trusted by top brands like Dish Network, Mayo Clinic, Mutual of Omaha, and ADT, the Invoca team are doing some amazing work in turning conversational data into automated action to enhance digital touchpoints and human interaction. Secondly, let's talk about Outbound. I've worked with the amazing team at Drips, and I hope that you'll take a look at Drips, the founders of conversational texting, where they use conversational AI to help you reach customers where they are most responsive, and that's on their phones. And working with major brands like 3-Day Blinds, Liberty Mutual, Credit Repair, and Gainsco, Drips is leading the way for some of the biggest brands in the world to improve engagement rates and outcomes for their prospects and customers. Thank you to Invoca and Drips. And now, back to the show. So buying a company, part of it can be easy, the dollars are available. But merging two brands is more than just a logo. It's culture, technology, current customers of both companies, and so much more, especially when it's a subscription type platform. And it's got to be done right to make your current customers happy, support the ones that may renew with you, and all the while making both companies merge and improve. Dee Anna McPherson is the Chief Marketing Officer at Invoca, the leading conversation intelligence platform. And on this episode, we'll discuss conversational data, MarTech and AdTech, creating a better customer experience, acquiring and merging with one of your competitors, from brand, people, culture, and technology standpoints, first-party data that many marketers don't know is first-party data, making sure both sets of customers are happy, beautiful Santa Barbara, Boilermakers, and a lot more. So let's tune into the CMO from one of my favorite companies with what is obviously one of all of our favorite sharks, and that would be me, on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Dee Anna, thank you so much for joining us today on A Shark's Perspective. Tell us a little bit about your background and your career story to date.
Sure. Well, first, thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of the podcast, and it's always great speaking with you. So thanks for having me on as a guest. A little bit about my background. I started my career in PR, worked at many agencies like Edelman and Ogilvy, and then worked in-house for PeopleSoft during a very exciting time. We were getting taken over, like in a hostile takeover by Oracle, and then made the jump into broader marketing roles about a decade ago, first with Yammer, that was a pioneer in the space that's now dominated by Slack, and then went on to lead marketing at Hootsuite, Movable Inc., which is another marketing technology. And then I joined Invoca about a year ago, right at the start of the pandemic. So fun fact is I've never even met my team in person yet.
Oh, that's so sad. Well, that's a pretty damn good pedigree, though, when you the names you just dropped off between Ogilvy, Edelman, Hootsuite, Oracle, PeopleSoft. Good names that people in the space know well. You're originally from Indiana, and you're a Boilermaker. What makes a Hoosier State kind of person move to San Francisco?
Well, it was kind of I did a little loop around the country. I started my career in Chicago. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm in PR. New York's the center of the media world. I need to be there. So I just picked up and moved to New York. And then I moved to Dallas with an opportunity with Edelman to go run an office. And then they said, if you turn around the office in 2 years, you can choose anywhere you want to go. So I said, all right, well, I work in high-tech communications, and Silicon Valley is the center of that world. I want to be there. So I moved out here in 99. So I guess you could say I'm a Californian now.
But when you were in Dallas, you became a massive Dallas Cowboys fan, right?
That's my one big regret is I never went to a Cowboys game.
Oh, it's God's country underneath.
I know. I heard it's just like, it is something to experience.
It is something to experience indeed. So let's talk a little bit about Invoca. And one of the great interesting things that's come up recently is you guys acquired Dialogue Tech, which was big news in the space. So yeah. I really want to dive into that acquisition and talk about really merging two tech companies. I've worked a little bit in M&A before, and even under best circumstances, it's hard to reassemble all the teams. But when you think about it from a MarTech and ad tech space is a lot more challenges as well. So what are the challenges and the opportunities that you've uncovered as you've gone through this transition when you're managing two subscription type SaaS brands, ad tech brands that come together? Because it's not always taking the exact two pieces that fit together. The puzzles don't always merge perfectly.
Yeah. So in this type of acquisition, we were fierce competitors. We were each
Yeah.
other's number one competitors. Yeah. So the first thing you think about is how are the people and the cultures going to mesh? Because that is really fundamental, right? It's key to success, keeping the customers happy, kind of keeping the teams productive. And so we spent a lot of time in due diligence, really like looking at the values of the companies and sort of diving into, explore as much as you can, before the deal close. And we found that like their culture is very complementary to ours, even though Invoca is based in California. People always say you kind of feel like a Midwestern company. You kind of have that Midwestern vibe, and so I think it fit really well with the Dialogue Tech folks. And Greg always says the two roles that you worry about most are the people who've been the sales consultants or the SEs and the person who does competitive intelligence. And when we talked to, because they're their most kind of fierce competitors, and when we talked to them, they were like, we just want to win and we'll win more together. So, the first thing that we looked at is really how do we treat the people coming in? How do we, kind of take care to make sure that we're listening and not just sort of dictating, here's how it's going to be. And we really make this a true like collaborative partnership. That was a big piece of it is the culture and the people.
To that point about the Midwest as well, you're from Indiana, your CEO's from Georgia, you've got a head of sales in Denver. Yeah, but you can call yourselves whatever you want, just as long as you keep that office in Santa Barbara.
We will.
Right there on the coast, on the water. So what are the challenges as well and the opportunities that go with merging the brands that you see? Because although these are not 50-year-old companies, you both have built up a fair level of trust in your field. And so like with any brand from a basic marketing standpoint, it's trying to merge those two levels of trust and make sure that your customers and their customers see it as one brand. What are you sort of encompassing as you go through that from a brand standpoint?
Yeah, we're looking at sort of a roadmap and a time horizon where things will transition. We wanted to make sure that we didn't do anything drastic immediately. Our number one concern is making sure that the Dialogue Tech customer base really felt embraced by Invoca and had either the same or an elevated experience as a customer of the combined company. So one of the things, for example, we decided, seems like a small decision, but I think it is, it represents the way we were thinking about it. We've decided not to change over their the email addresses, for example. We didn't want Dialogue Tech customers to suddenly be getting emails from Invoca. So we're continuing to market to the Dialogue Tech customers through the Dialogue Tech MarTech stack. The customer-facing employees are continuing to communicate with the Dialogue Tech email. And then over time, we'll begin to transition that. But we didn't want the customers to feel jarred by this. And we want to have time for them to settle in and then for them to see that they're going to get an elevated experience as a result of the merger of the two companies.
Typically, when you think through that, and from your own past as well, where you've seen this like with Yammer and with PeopleSoft, how do you look at that from a timeline standpoint? Are you thinking this is a 6 month to a year, or is this multiple years? Because that's a really good point about keeping email addresses to have some sort of familiarity. I think so often that a lot of acquisitions I've been part of or worked with or seen, there's a very quick rush to change the logo.
Yeah.
But there's not always the rush to improve the experience.
Right. And that's really our primary focus, is improving the experience. From the branding standpoint, we decided we'll leave the Dialogue Tech website up, but it's really just for things that will be of value to customers. For prospects, for net new customers, we'll be marketing the Invoca platform to them. But so we've kind of redirected pages on the Dialogue Tech website that are specifically for prospects. But if it's for customers, we're leaving it up. And then we're keeping the Dialogue Tech logo on there, but we're just saying is now part of Invoca, so that there's clarity around the company and the new structure. But we want to elevate the customer experience. So we're leaving that alone for now. We will transition it over time. Probably I'm thinking, around a 6-month timeframe, we'll start to make some more transitions. And then, we've said publicly that we will continue to fully support the Dialogue Tech platform over a multi-year period. And we're currently working with customers to understand, like what's the best migration path. We want to make sure that, we're listening before we're making final decisions.
Well, so as I mentioned earlier, I had worked with clients over my career that had worked with several Invoca competitors as well, including Dialogue Tech, and each have their own positive idiosyncrasies. They each have some bells and whistles that the other one doesn't. But when you look at merging these two ad tech technologies together from a customer standpoint, how do you go about it to make certain that it continues from a technological perspective, elevating that experience for their customers, whether it be yours or theirs, and as you migrate the two together?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's been easier about this acquisition is that we both deeply understand each other's business. So our technology teams have been able to immerse themselves very quickly in each other's platforms and do an analysis and say, okay, which one is a better platform to focus our energy for future development? So we've decided that the Dialogue Tech platform will remain with customers for a 2 to 3 year horizon, but that the Invoca platform will be where we focus for future development. But there are technologies and features that Dialogue Tech had that Invoca didn't have. And so having that engineering resource, we're going to accelerate our roadmap and development of that functionality. And so as we kind of entice customers to migrate from Dialogue Tech to Invoca, we think they'll get, a much stronger platform, and, they'll be able to get a whole lot more for the same, price that they've paid. We'll lock them into current pricing.
Having worked with Invoca and Dialogue Tech as well, it's always been important to me from a performance marketing standpoint in particular. A lot of what your technology is starting to do and really emerge with is giving marketers the capability to leverage technology and the right kind of ad tech to improve customer experience. And so many people think, when they think call intelligence type platforms, they're typically thinking of somebody calls into a call center, then how do we optimize our ads? This can also, though, optimize a lot of customer experience as teams are finding out. So tell me about that, how you're integrating that customer experience field into a lot of the conversation of where people can advance with leveraging this kind of technology.
We're really looking at how conversation data can help improve the entire buyer's journey, from the initial landing on your website, from a marketing campaign, to when they jump to the phone call, and then how do we improve the conversion on the phone call? And then afterwards, how do you take all that data that you're learning from customers as they call in to improve your digital journey and the overall customer experience? So, if you think about it, marketers, we spend so much money doing things like, surveys and focus groups to kind of learn what a customer is thinking. Yet most marketers aren't really tapping into this gold mine of first party data comes into their calls. Customers are taking, they are taking time to call in, and they're sharing all kinds of insights about your product, your pricing, your competitors, their motivations. And I think especially in a year like we've had this last year, where consumer behavior was all over the map and buying behavior was changing, it's so important for marketers to keep their finger on the pulse of what's happening. And there's no better way to do that than using that first party conversation data. And I think it's a really under leveraged asset that most marketers don't tap into.
Well, most marketers just don't know that it is first party data.
Yeah.
I mean, it becomes something routed to either a call center or a customer service team, but there's so
exactly. So a lot of
rich
marketers,
insights.
if you ask them, when you drive people to your website from a marketing campaign, what percentage of them convert via the phone? Most of them will tell you, I have no idea. And then, it's really illuminating once you get access to that call data and you find out that all these campaigns that you think were performing at a certain level were really performing at a much higher level, because the conversions are just not happening online, they're happening on the phone. So that, kind of overall visibility and attribution, that's sort of where we land with a lot of marketers. But then as they get more sophisticated, they start tapping into that call data to say, all right, now what can I learn about improving the digital experience? What can I learn about improving, my product, my service? What can I learn about, the broader market that can help, our company strategy, our product strategy, as well as our marketing strategy? And then the final leg of it too is, we have all this call data. The other thing that happened in May for Invoca, not only did we close the Dialogue Tech deal on May 11th, but we also launched a whole new product line, Invoca for Sales. And that's all about using that conversation data to actually improve the agent performance so that you're improving the overall customer experience, as well as improving conversions by tapping into that data to use it to train and improve agent performance.
Explain to the audience who may or may not think, we saw, you talked about consumer behavior before. One of the things that I still think a lot of marketers don't understand is the need for people to be on the phone. Not everything is done from an e-commerce channel or just a digital click and buy somewhere. How do you explain this, or do you even need to explain this to people who may not understand the importance of phone calls as part of the buying process for a lot of complex sales?
Yeah, so the customers that we serve do tend to understand the power of that human touch. So we really focus on industries that are, complex purchases, high consideration.
And that's a huge market.
It's a huge market. So if you think of things like financial services, if you think of things like insurance, healthcare, industries, high-end e-commerce. So for example, barbecue guys, summer's getting started. A lot of people thinking about buying, a new barbecue or outdoor equipment. Well, if you are sort of a low end, maybe you're like me and you want to buy a $500 barbecue, they don't want to talk to you. But if you're thinking about a $20,000 custom build out, they want to talk to you because they could probably give you a better experience and upsell you. If you're a contractor that can provide, really repeat business, they definitely want to take that opportunity to build the relationship with you. So we do focus on industries where they understand, the value of the human connection. And I think, what we found during the pandemic, there were a lot of things where you typically would buy something in person. And rather than just jumping straight from in person to digital, the phone became even more important. And so we are seeing a lot of companies now thinking of, using the phone as a channel to create that kind of human, human touch and allowing that expertise that, might replace the in-person experience.
Sure. So what are the biggest challenges you see now in positioning a MarTech tech platform like Invoca? Most people already have large tech stacks. A lot of them are antiquated, but just like we were talking about, a lot of this being first party data, when somebody gets on the phone with you, a lot of marketers really don't even know what kind of gobbled mess they have internally that their IT team is trying to stitch together. So this becomes a challenge for any ad tech player or MarTech player to come in and say, we've got this cool, great technology. And it becomes a challenge to market that as well. What are you seeing as a continued challenge, and how are you overcoming positioning yourself as a B2B ad tech platform?
Yeah, certainly there's a lot of MarTech and ad tech out there. So just getting that share of mind with the marketer is, certainly a challenge. And the way we approach it is really, we realize that we need to educate, our prospective buyer on the problems that they have that we could solve. So a lot of marketers have spent, a lot of money and effort gathering every bit of data they can about a digital journey. But when it comes to jumping to the phone call, it's a total black hole. And, most of our customers have, 30% or more of their sales being done over the phone. So that's just a huge gap that they have. And then when you start to point that out and ask them questions like, do you know how many of the phone calls that you drove from your campaign are converting? They're like, oh, yeah, I have no idea. Do you know when you drive from a website to a phone call, what percentage of calls aren't being picked up or answered in time, which is like the number one frustration of consumers when they call in, they're not getting, getting a quick answer and quick resolution. Do you know that? No, have no idea. So once you start opening their eyes to these like significant gaps, they get it pretty quick, and it's very illuminating, and they can see a pretty quick impact on their business when they just start taking a look at what's happening in these conversations. And then over time, as I said, as they get more sophisticated, they can really start to tap into that data. And it gives the marketer, I think, a real seat at the table to go and represent, here's the voice of the customer, here's what's happening in the market, here's the buying behavior and changing consumer behavior that we're seeing.
Dee Anna, I ask this of everybody on the show. What is your favorite kind of shark and why?
Okay, so I wouldn't say that I know a whole lot about sharks, and I wouldn't say that unlike you, I'm not really looking to encounter sharks in the wild. But there's one shark that I encountered in the wild, and it was a leopard shark, and it was in really shallow water. It wasn't doing so hot, so it was a really cool experience. My son was maybe 5 at the time. It was about a decade ago, and then the kind of park ranger came out and was assisting it. So it was really cool to watch it, and they're not menacing. So I would say that's my favorite shark.
Good choice. Well, Dee Anna, it's a special time of the show. Are you ready for the 5 most interesting and important questions that you're going to be asked today?
I hope so.
All right. Number 1, MarTech or AdTech?
Ooh. MarTech.
Okay. Number 2, San Francisco or Santa Barbara?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I'm going to say Santa Barbara.
Yeah, it's not even close. Number 3, IndyCar racing or NASCAR?
Well, I'm going to say NASCAR, even though I'm from Indiana. We have
That was a setup because I know what's coming.
Yeah, we're hosting an event tomorrow with Julia Landauer, who's a NASCAR racer.
Fantastic. So what made you go that route?
With Julie, we just saw videos of her. She's amazing. She's her content's incredible. She's super bright, and she just really grabbed our attention.
Good. All right, number 4, great schools in your area: Stanford, well-known school, or Purdue?
Oh, I got to go with Purdue.
You got to go with the home school. Yeah, of course. Much better at basketball most times anyway. All right, number 5, and the most important question that you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
Biscuits all the way.
All right. So Dee Anna, where do people go to find out more about you, the Invoca platform? Of course, they can listen to A Shark's Perspective and hear about Invoca as well, but where do you want them to go to find you?
Yeah, I mean, you can find us on Invoca.com. You can follow us on LinkedIn. We have a number of events coming up to, learn more about Invoca, and you can find that all on our website.
Dee Anna, thank you so much for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
So there was my conversation with Dee Anna McPherson, the Chief Marketing Officer at Invoca, the leading conversation intelligence platform. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with her. First, culture is likely already a top initiative with your brand, but merging 2 brands together, I've gone through this personally, it is of utmost importance. And why is it so important? Because when you really merge all these people together, 1, you want them to be happy, but 2, it's going to help drive a better performance and a better experience for your own customers. Second, with any acquisition, it's extremely important to help both sets of customers feel like they're part of the new family. One thing she mentioned that's critical is the support, in this case, of the platform they bought. They're going to help support those teams for some time. Look, and with some brands, they may have turned your brand down in the past. Some went with the other company, and they're maybe a bit confused about what happens next. Or even if they're looking at you for the first time, it's really up to you to earn their trust so that they want to buy, or in this case, renew with you. So it's not just about acquiring your competitors' customers, it's also making certain that they enjoy an amazing customer experience. Third, and as she said, and you've heard me say this before, most marketers aren't leveraging the first-party conversational data that comes with a phone call. It's not just customer service either. What can you take from a conversation that helps you with ad performance, customer experience, improve your strategy, improve agent performance? There's so much. It's a lot more than just a phone call. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. I'm so thankful for everyone who listens. Thank you to the amazing sponsors at Invoca and Drips. So let's go out there and have some amazing conversations. And join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.